I did that. So, okay, Shalom Chaverim. Shall we do some learning? So one of the things that we try to do in Selichot, and I said that earlier, and I will repeat myself very briefly. I don't know that I actually can repeat myself. When are you starting to hit your chest, Silvian? So, that's true. That's true. So, you tell me later if I manage or not. Basically, by the time of Selichot, you're trying to figure out what you are supposed to be thinking about, right? Like what you are supposed to be placing your energies on in order to be in a situation when the High Holies arrive, to be able to say, this is what I'm working on. Now, at risk of burning some idea that I wanted to share prematurely, I want to ask you, what's the symbol of Passover? Say only matzah, okay? All the rest of the answers are wrong. Say. Okay, great. Like it's not maybe right, maybe wrong. It's all the rest is wrong. Like it's matzah. But if you want like the sacrifice, but it doesn't apply. So Passover is matzah. What is the symbol of Shavuot? So two possible symbols in Shavuot. Shavuot gets tricky. So one is the weight of the barley, okay? And the other one is going to be what Molly says, milk, but the milk is actually to point out to the Torah. So Torah and at the wheat. What is the symbol of Sukkot? So it's tricky. It's not the sukkah, it's the lulav. But the idea is pretty clear. It's pretty tangible, right? And what is the symbol of Rosh Hashanah? The Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah, the day of the blast, is the shofar. What about Yom Kippur? What's the symbol of Yom Kippur? White, empty stomach, gate. Not that clear. I think it's you. I think that the symbol is you. In first person. It's an I. Like the work of Yom Kippur, the symbol of Yom Kippur, that's why we wear white, that's why we are fasting, is your individuality. All the rest are smaller symbols. But at the center of Yom Kippur, there is an I. Interesting, normal and common misconception that Yom Kippur is a day more solemn than Rosh Hashanah. Incorrect. Just incorrect. Like, why? We can think that, and there are reasons, right, to think about that. You have a score. You say, well, it must be sadder. Yes, we do have a score. And it is sad when you go to a score. But that's not a more solemn day than Rosh Hashanah. And the reason for that is because the day of judgment is actually Rosh Hashanah. Like when you are busy with how are we going to move forward, and sure, later on we say that it's going to be a sign and seal in Yom Kippur. But by the time of Yom Kippur, you are not busy any longer with the question of if we're going to live. The question is how you're going to live. How you're going to live your life. Like in Rosh Hashanah, you are reminded, you, me, all of us, it's not personal. Well, it's very personal. We are reminded that we own our lives and that our lives are very fragile and that we control all kinds of things, but there are things that are not under our control. And so we acknowledge that dissonance and that difference, and we live with that dissonance, and we say, okay, what are we going to do with the things that we can control? And that's where I want to start. I got some handouts. I'll put a bunch here, pass them back, another bunch here, pass them back, and I think we have for everybody, and if we don't, please share. Okay. Now, I do want to say that in the symbolic images of how we think of the high holidays, in Yom Kippur we do imagine, to some extent, an out-of-body experience. What it would be like if I wasn't able to. If I couldn't live any longer, if I couldn't change things. And that's what's happening in Unetane Tokef, this prayer that originally prayer is a poem, it's a liturgical poem that stands at the very center of the Musaf service of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We don't do exactly Musaf, so we have it in our Machzor. It's part of the morning service. It's just before the Kedusha, the third blessing of the Amidah. Like a shepherd with his sheep, God decides who's going to live, who is going to die, who by fire, said Leonard Cohen. What we are imagining is our fragility. And to some extent, we are being judged also in Yom Kippur. I think it's slightly different. Slightly different kind of judgment, but we'll talk about that as we go forward. So we call this session Knocking on Heaven's Doors, the power to heal the things we can. Shar asher nisgar, kuma ptacheu. The gate long shut, get up and throw it wide. It was written by Rabbi Shlomo Even Gvirol. Can I ask for a reader for the portion in Talmud, in the Talmud Babylonian 31a? In English. You don't have to read Aramaic. Yes, go. Don't just go for it.
With regard to the same verse, Rabbi said, after departing from this world, when a person is brought to judgment for the life he lived in this world, they say to him in the order of that verse.
Okay, 1 second. בעברית, the hero says, בשעה שמכניסים אדם לדין. Like at the time that the person enters a court, and we are talking about a heavenly court. אומרים לו, they ask him, go ahead.
Did you conduct business faithfully? Did you designate times for Torah study? Did you engage in procreation? Did you await salvation? Did you engage in the dialectics of wisdom or understand one matter from another? And nevertheless, beyond all these, if the fear of the Lord is his treasure, yes, he is worthy. And if not, no. None of these accomplishments have any value. There
Okay,
is.
let me pause you for 1 second. So what's happening? What is the Talmud describing?
At the moment of their death.
What? Okay, so the person dies. Is departing from this world, and what's happening right now? There is some court. The person is standing there, maybe on the other side of the gates. There's a doorman, and they seem to be a court, and they have a bunch of questions. What are the questions? Okay, but let's go one by one. Nasata benatata be'emunah. Did you conduct business faithfully? What does it mean?
Were you fair to your employees?
Were you fair? Are you honest? Are you honest? Are you fair? There's another word that is not translated here, and it's natata. What's the meaning of natata?
Did you give?
Did you give of yourself in faithfulness? And why be'emunah? Why in faithfulness? You can be fair in business because that's the law. You can give because that's your tax. But the question is about how you did it. How did you conduct business and how you gave? So what's the second question? Did you dedicate time to study Torah? Kavata etim leTorah. Did you set times for the study of Torah? Why is that being asked? Why is such an important question? Because you there get the rules by which you should live, say Diana. And it is pretty accurate. The rabbis and the tradition discusses, okay, what's more important, the fulfillment of mitzvot, of the study of Torah? And we like to say the fulfillment of mitzvot, but the rabbis answer, no, it's the study of Torah because it leads to fulfilling mitzvot. Now, for all those that are master procrastinators, the question is, were you a master procrastinator in doing what is right? Third, did you engage in procreation? Priya or revia? So what's the question?
Did you fulfill the commandment?
What?
Did you fulfill the commandment to?
So you can go to a very first layer. It's the first mitzvah in the Torah. Did you fulfill this mitzvah? Yes or no? I think that that's one layer to this. The other question, or what you could add to this is, did you
continue the Jewish people?
Do you continue Jewish people? That's already a very particularist question, right? Particularist question. But at the more universal, and it's an important one, and at the more universal level, you should said, did you create something? And so when I take that and when I move on, did you contribute to this world in a creative way? Did you invest yourself in this world? What's the next one? What? Okay, tzipita leyeshua. Okay, what's the question? Yeah, right, now, if you think for a moment, immediate kind of Jewish progressive mindset to this is oh, Like there's a fundamental question here, and I think it's one of the most important ones. Did you have hope? Did you have hope? Did you wake up in the morning thinking that you're going to work toward making things better in this world, because things should get better? Next.
There is a parable that illustrates this. A person who said to his
No,
emissary...
the next question. Sorry, Lisa.
That's what I thought.
Sorry. Pilpalta bechokma, which is in English, did you engage in the dialects of wisdom or understand one mother from another? What does it mean, pilpalta bechokma? Like, did you engage in the dialects of wisdom and engage one thing to another? Like, what the heck are they talking about? Where is Julie? Julie's not here. Julie, what are they asking about? Yes, but that's a second level. It's a second level of that, in my opinion. Give me a second, David.
Things that seem opposite of each other that might both be correct.
What did you do for a living at Shir Hadash? What? At Shir Hadash. You hear a lot. So I'll tell you, because this woman helped everybody in this congregation to be able to answer to that question and say yes. The question is about Hebruta. Did you study with other people? Were you talking to yourself? Did you spend your life speaking to yourself and living in the monologues that you created to yourself, the language that you created to yourself, or you actually spoke with other people? Okay, how many we have? Count them. Should be 7. Friends, wake up. Come on. Seven. And the last comment is, and nevertheless, beyond all this, if the fear of the Lord is his treasure, yes, he is worthy. And if not, no. None of these accomplishments have any value. So what is the last comment after all these 7 questions? What's the point? Classic rabbinic thing, right? Like they throw you into a tantrum that you go forever, and they say, by the way, all this is valid if you have this another component. What is the component that they are suggesting? Which means fear of God, Irat Adonai, in our tradition, is a combination between 2 things. One is intentionality and thoughtfulness, and the other one is self-awareness. Like, did you have those 2? When you were fulfilling the law, were you intentional? Were you driven by a sense of connection that was beyond doing what is right and not going to jail? When you engage with the person who is sick and you fulfill the mitzvah of Bikur Chulim, did you actually show up with an open heart? Were you there? Were you present? Okay, so go ahead, Lisa.
Continue reading.
A person who said.
There is a parable that illustrates this. A person who said to his emissary, "Bring a core of wheat up to the attic for me to store there." The messenger went up and brought it up for him. He said to the emissary, "Did you mix a kav of homton, a preservative to keep away worms, into it for me?" He said to him, "No." He said to him, "If so, it would have been preferable had you not brought it up. Of what use is worm-infested wheat? Likewise, Torah and mitzvot without fear of God are no value." Of no value.
What? Are of no value. Thank you. So that's the point. If you don't have kavanah, if you don't have intentionality, the mitzvot, I want to put a little nuance, have less value. Because there is also rabbinical tradition that says that the mitzvah is a mitzvah, and if you fulfill the mitzvah, you should be okay. But there's a very very deep, or not deep layer of shallowness, doesn't fit, but like there's something that's very shallow in the idea of fulfilling mitzvah just because of that. Yes, Diane, before you pass out, good to see you, but welcome back.
But don't we say, like, if you do, then you will not understand after you do it?
Uh-huh.
So isn't that kind of opposite that? Like, you may or may not have the intention, but you do it, and then as you do it, you come to understand.
I don't see that as a contradiction. Like,
Well, because this is saying you have to have intention, otherwise, if you don't have a good intention in the mitzvah, then it doesn't count. And that seems to contradict the idea of like doing it without intention leads me to understand.
Intention can be the fact that you are naive, or that you are, and you can be unaware of certain things, and awareness is something that develops over your lifetime. Like the intentionality you have for certain things, and when you're in your 20s, and when you're in your 30s, or when you are in some different circumstances of your life where you're here or somewhere else, might be different, but the mitzvah, as a mitzvah, or whatever mitzvah you are fulfilling, remains the same. So I think that as you grow and as you interact with different circumstances and different people in your life, the structure of your intentions might change. And that should be okay. Okay, we'll take one more comment. I really want to move. This is only just for you to know that there is a gate. That was just to tell you that there is a gate and there is some doorman there asking questions. Like, you got that, right? Because that's it. I need to move into something else. Go ahead. Self-awareness. 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 Okay, we're going to move on. This is what I want to, they say, one of my favorite writers, particularly when I want to make the people of Israel suffer, is Franz Kafka. And for good reasons. And Kafka, I want to tell you something important, okay? Don't look at your things. Don't look at your things for a second. I just say, there are scholastic articles written about this Kafka story, Jewish scholastic articles written about, and I don't know who besides me have read them, but an important thing, no, I guess that there are some others. An important thing is that Kafka, even though he's not speaking Jewishly, has a very strong Jewish background and structure behind this story. And I want just to point out to something. Before the law, I read you the first couple of verses. Some of you have heard, I shared this story 2 years ago in Neila, if you were paying attention. Before the law sits a gatekeeper. To this gatekeeper comes a man from the country. This is all what I want to read to you. What is a man of the country, or from the country, in Kafka's vocabulary? Is an ignorant. What Kafka is translating is the Talmudic concept, listen well, of Am Haaretz. He's using it, which is how the Talmud addresses an ignorant. He's saying to this gatekeeper, he's not saying someone from the farm is coming. He's saying an ignorant is coming. What he is pointing out is to ignorance, using the translation of a Talmudic idea. This is what I want to do. I want to sit in Hebrutas. This is the only time we're going to do Hebruta today. This is a story. I want you to read it together. and to think it through. We're going to dedicate to this, it's kind of 2 pages, but the writing is like pretty big and spaced. So we're going to dedicate to this. Now I need you to read and to discuss the story, not the day that you actually lost your keys at home. Like it's nice. I know that sometimes conversations go in that direction, but don't do that now. Like don't do the free association of, I also have a gate. Don't do that. Like not now. Don't do it. Don't do it right now. We're going to take 12 minutes to talk to one another. We're going to read the Kafka story, and we're going to get back, okay? And for those that don't know what Hebruta is, we're going to sit in groups, little groups, pairs, trios, 4, or whatever you want, and you're going to read to one another out loud.
Well, maybe I should do it anyway. Try it, just like put one foot in front of the other, and not put whatever like step in. Like talk more about that. The guy who steps in the line, right? And then this guy who doesn't try.
We will do 2 more minutes.
Rabbi, this story is posted on the wall in the Kafka Museum. I just saw it the day before yesterday. So everybody reads it.
Wow. It looks like that. So, did we finish with the story? You are having discussions with one another. Okay, let's get back. So, at risk of losing total control of the room, I will ask an open question. What did you think about the story? What is this a story about? And then, I usually ask questions and people answer to me different answers. It usually doesn't happen that I ask such an open question and then I ask an open question, there is silence. We're going to
I think
take Mark, and then we're going to go to Bill.
I think it was really fascinating because it was his gate all along, and he didn't take it. He didn't go through it, and he actually sat there waiting and waiting instead of just going through. And I'm not sure if he would have gotten smacked if he tried to go through, but he didn't even try.
Thank you. It was his gate, and he didn't try.
Yeah, to build on that, I read it as an element of fear, right? And that, like, he's there and doesn't know how to start, doesn't know, wants to enter, but can't, is afraid to, right? And so he's making all these negotiations and arguing and all that. But, like was mentioned, right?
Arguing with whom?
Himself, the gatekeeper.
A little bit with the gatekeeper, right? But not much. He's mostly stuck. Yeah.
It reminds me of the story of the elephant that's chained by a tiny little small chain. Everybody know that story? And yeah, so the elephant from very young age was chained. Remember the story.
I'm gonna help you with the story.
But
the story
anyway.
of the elephant is a story about someone of mighty power that stopped trying to deal with a small task that could have been possible if he just would try again. And then
Because he gave up. So that's
Because
what
he gave
happened
up.
with this guy.
because he gave up. That's the story of the elephant. And how you take that, Shiri? I want to stay one more second with you. So I want to ask you. You need for some. So how do you see the giving up in the story? Like how that comes through? What is the giving up?
I think he got used to not being proactive, and that can happen. It can happen if you're used to just like giving up on things.
Okay.
I think it's,
David, you want to say something?
Okay, well.
So he never took control of his own life or took charge of his own life. He didn't need to ask permission because it's his life. So who do you need permission for to live your own life?
He never observed the other gatekeepers who were letting people in, and he just focused on what was in front of him, and it wasn't successful, and he kept it being unsuccessful because he didn't see the wider picture, other people going in with their wheat through the gatekeepers.
So thank you very much. We're gonna stop here, and we're gonna use these two comments to go forward. So David, remind us what you said. You don't need to ask permission to live your life. And David, number 2, you said you already forgot.
That he only saw what was there in front of him and didn't see the wider picture.
He was only able to see his own gatekeeper and gate. He didn't even notice until the very end of his life that no one else tried to enter the gate. This is a tragic story, right? This story is a tragedy. It's the story of many, many, many of us that spend our entire lives waiting for permission to enter the places where we feel we need to be, or to reach, or to try. And it is a tragedy because what happens is that we make an idealization of our own problems, right? If you see the description of the gatekeeper with a fur coat and big guy, he was an intimidating gatekeeper because that's how he saw it on one hand. And on the other hand, you don't see anyone or anything else because you're just stuck on seeing what is conflictive, what is challenging, what is preventing you from. And that's where we spend our lives. I want to suggest that That's the concept of Neila. Neilat Hasharim is Jewish tradition coming and saying, okay, Chaverim, friends, we're going to slap you in your faces, and you better wake up. You better wake up, because you didn't come to this world to spend your entire life doing nothing with your existence. But that's like literally in Yom Kippur we talk about Neilat Hasharim, the locking of the doors, of the gates. And by that time, the idea that you are feeling, many of our people, and I want to actually commend our people that actually are staying more for the Neilah service. Many of our people are already having dinner. But that's actually not fully understanding, in my opinion, or not fully taking the power of the day. The power of the day is that by 6 p.m. in the day of Yom Kippur, you are supposed to be on your toes, saying like, what am I missing? What is that gate? What are the things in my life that I'm not recognizing? What are the things that are intimidating me and are keeping me from making it through? I have news for you. We all have them. Some of us will never cross through the gates. That's a tragic story. Some of us, at some point, will say, excuse me, move to the side. Can I ask for a reader for the words of Rabbi Marshall Mayer? This book, You Are My Witness, is a compilation of Rabbi Marshall Mayer's intentions in services. And so they were collected, and this is something he said once in Neila. Who is reading? Just. You're reading, Susan?
One of the most urgent challenges of life is
Go
to
slower down a little bit. So, okay.
come to terms with the gates that have closed forever. This requires a keen and honest reading of one's life, and that is what this day is all about. But we must be very careful not to make the error of declaring a gate shut forever that still can and must be opened.
Now, I want to plant a seed for something that we are going to do right now. We are going to shift thematically a little bit, but not much. We'll make an entire circle back. So, by the way, if you leave this space 1 minute before the end, then you will not know what I was talking about. Just for you to know. And go ahead, read the sources, you're not going to get it. Now, so, just do whatever you want. But like, if you are so far here, you might want to wait. Now, not terrible mystery, but just for you to know. Now, the idea that appears in the story, that this gate is only for you, that is a personal gate, is key for the understanding of Yom Kippur. The idea that he wasn't able to see other people and other gates is key for the understanding of Yom Kippur. Remember how we started the conversation? What's the symbol of Yom Kippur? Well, it's your gate. It's your gate. Like if you're thinking about anyone else that needs to call you to ask you for forgiveness, or like all these interesting ideas that we have about Yom Kippur sometimes. Like, yeah, well, you're missing out. You're missing out. At the end of the day, Yom Kippur is about the self. We come in community. It is very powerful that some of the central prayers of Yom Kippur are recited in plural form. Al-Chet Shechatanu, for the sin that we have committed before you, right? So we have a little bit of the courage and the company to do the confession, to to speak it out. But at the end, the work of teshuvah, the work of bursting through the gates, is personal. Is for the individual. So we're going to jump into something completely different. ויצעק משה אל אדוני לאמור, אל נא רפנה לה. So Moses cried out to God, saying, "Oh God, please heal her." Can I ask for a reader in Talmud Brachot?
There was again an incident where one student descended to serve as prayer leader before the ark in the presence of Rabbi Elazar, and he was excessively abbreviating his prayer. His students protested and said to him, "How brief is his prayer?" He said to them, "Is he abbreviating his prayer any more than Moses, our teacher, did?" Oh, funny. As it is written with regard to the prayer, Moses recited, imploring God to cure Miriam of her leprosy. And Moses cried out to the Lord, saying, "Please, God, heal her, please." This student's prayer was certainly no briefer than the few words recited by Moses. Having mentioned Moses' prayer for Miriam, the Gemara cites what Rabbi Yaakov said that Rav Chisda said.
Hold back 1 second.
Ken?
Now, all this idea of healing and all this conversation about the length is to say this.
Oh, okay.
Is to give us this sentence. Go.
Okay, the drum roll over here.
Go.
Okay. Anyone who requests mercy on behalf of another need not mention his name. As it is stated, "Please, God, heal her, please." And he did not mention Miriam's name.
So the rabbis are coming and saying, or this rabbi now is coming and saying, when you do a prayer for someone's healing, you don't have to be specific. You don't have to say the name of that person. Yeah, Moses didn't do that for his sister. Miriam's name is not in his prayer. The conversation is not about briefness, even though the previous conversation, it was in the Talmud about the length of prayer, and now they have this conversation about the prayer being brief. Now it's about, do you say the name of the person? Are you supposed to be specific when you are praying for healing? And so, one possibility, Rabbi Chisda says, you don't have to. Moses wasn't. You don't have to. But it looks like the tradition is not pretty settled with that. So they find it to be slightly problematic, even though it's possible. And so, who can read about the Rabbi Natan? So you have a microphone. Whoever gets the microphone, just take it and do it. And we need to do it faster. Go.
In that moment, Moshe drew a small circle and stood within it and prayed for mercy on her, saying, "I will not move from here until you heal Miriam, my sister. As it says, God, please heal her now."
Okay. So what is about the Rabbi Natan saying? What are they explaining here?
God, Moshe was very specific at that point and named his sister.
So they come to fix it. They just fix it. They say, no. That was the second sentence he said. In the first sentence, he said, "This is my sister Mia." He actually he drew a circle. Like he was so specific. He individualized her 100%, physically and by name. And then he said, "El Narefanala." Now, what is the thing about being specific as opposed to being generic? What's the problem with that? Why is such a topic of discussion? Because you live your life in specifics and not in generalities. Good point. And what about this being connected to healing?
say names out loud during Kaddish and prayers for healing. We wanted individuals to be heard, their names to be heard.
We want individual names to be heard. Why? Intention.
It's a personal message from you to.
It's a personal message from you to God. Okay. And the person will feel it too. So there's this possibility of prayer having the power of influencing people's well-beings. If you don't mention, you might be more inclusive, says Susan. You're not being specific, you're just being more inclusive, right? I call you Shmei all the inhabitants of the world, which is great, but sometimes can you take a bit more responsibility and maybe say that your people will take care of bringing something that is positive to the table? So there is also this possibility for tension there. We'll take your comment, Esther. Mm-hmm. That's particularist also. That's particular also. Because you say this specific person that is ill and the people of Israel. Still it's a bit specific, right? Like there are some other peoples in the world. We call them Goyei Aratzot, the peoples of the world, literally. Okay, that is more inclusive. So we have like the inclusivity and particularism discussion. Like I'm praying for this one, for the other one. Like it's not clear, but there's something about first person here. And if you look at the Talmud, the source 5, Rabbi Hia Bar Ashi said in page 5, said even though they said a person asked about their personal needs during who hears prayer, if they have a sick person in their house, they should say it in the blessing of the sick people. And the reason I brought this up is just for the part of, what part? Read it. Read it yourself. Rabbi Hia Bar Ashi said, Rav said, even though they said a person asked about their personal needs during who hears prayer. They say first and foremost need to pray about your personal needs. When you are praying for healing, you are supposed to start by your personal needs. If you are, and it's very nice to pray for everybody else. I'm not suggesting that you don't do that any longer. But entire, yeah. So I'm not suggesting that you don't pray for other people. But what I am suggesting is that we do articulate in first person what is the healing that you need to experience. What's the healing that we need to ask for? Now, from that perspective, almost all healing prayers are generic. Misheberach, the generic Misheberach for the Chole, for the ill, is generic. The famous Misheberach of David Friedman, generic. El Narefan Allah from the Torah, generic. And it's great. But when we are thinking about our personal gate, the one that you need to enter, so you don't die in the ground on the other side of the gate, wondering what you could have done out of your life, you need to be able to say in first person, heal me. Heal me. Help me rectify my way or find a path for healing. And from that perspective, there's there's a piyut, there's a liturgic poem that was written by Rabbi Raphael Entebes, 20th century rabbi in Morocco. And I wanted to look at the words. We'll try to sing it a little bit. Refatziri, and the translation is in the next page, so I'm writing double, so you might need to go back and forth. Refatziri el ne'eman ki ata rofe uman ad rashi shur chalshi v'ten koach lenafshi. And if you look, heal my pain, my personal pain. Let me make it through my gate. And it's not heal me in the things that are medically impossible to be healed. Help me heal, so I open the gates that I can, those that I might have convinced myself that I might not be ever able to burst through, to make it through. So heal my pain, O loyal God, because you are a skilled healer. Well, you are literally a skilled doctor, say, Rofe. You lead me, you see my weakness, and grant strength to my soul. Not refuat nefesh in general. Ten koach lenafshi, to my soul. Open the gate, and here we have the gates. Open the gate of mercy, high dweller of heavens. Upon your servant bestow your grace. There would be no. O living God, desire my prayer and hasten to my aid, and speedily call for the redemption. And then we go for all of us of the nation born to the lady Sarah, which is like a very interesting image. And why is Sarah coming here? Well, it says, Ben Agvira. Giveret means lady, right? Okay, the reference is to Sarah. Why is to Sarah? First Jewish one, the mother of the Jewish people. So there is a generic thing that is particularist, but generic, at the end, which is like the mother of the Jewish people. Why the mother? Why the mother? We're not going to go there. Wait, sorry, not this time. Why the mother? Rachamim, rechem, mercy. Is directly there because we are going to the womb. Because we are going to the womb. It's mercy, the rechem, the rachamim in Hebrew, mercy, and rechem means I don't pronounce well words with double use. We need to avoid them as much as possible. And you already say it 3 times, so I think it's enough. Now, let's don't do that. No, let's not do that. I made a joke about myself, so everybody can say your humor. Now let's move on. Not that you, Shir, were doing that. Let's just say let's move on. Now, there's a thing I want you to notice here. The personal thing. Refat Tziri. Once again, what's the meaning of Refat Tziri? And the second part of the sentence is El Ne'eman. Heal my pain, heal my tool. Tzir is also my channel. Now, the second part of the sentence is El Ne'eman. Why do we call God El Ne'eman? Why? Because there is a reciprocity. Because I know I can trust you. You're trustworthy. But this is once again, I know that, look, not all things, and that's why I named this session, the things we can. The things we can. There are things that we don't have the ability to heal ourselves. That's a completely different conversation. But the conversation of Yom Kippur is about all those things that we can heal And many of them, we have decided that we don't have the ability. We have decided that they are impossible to us. And then we get lost into, refuah shlema for everybody. Like we wish to everybody to have a complete recovery. What about yours? What about the things that we need to focus on healing on ourselves? Now, I want you to hear the melody of this piyut. A little bit. I'm running, so I want to make sure that we get to the last sentences that I promised to you. So, and that's why I got a bit clumsy, but I do think that there's an opportunity for those that like to do Hebruta later on to actually explore this poem a bit more. I think it's a very powerful one, but I want to sing it a little bit. You have it on page 5. Let's try it. Let's see if we can sing it together. Refatziri el neman. You can repeat after me. Refatziri el neman. Ki ata rofehu man. Ki ata rofehu man. Et rashi shur chalshi. אתן כוח לנפשי, את ראשי שור חשי, אתן כוח לנפשי. Now, the next sentence is Shar Arachamim, open the gates of mercy. Now, what we literally say, like the last thing we said, when we're about to finish Neilah, is it's right there, page 6. What? What do we say? Pitchu li Sharei Tzedek, open for me the gates of righteousness. Now, our Machzor did something that, to me, is unforgivable, or something that I dislike, and I'll show you why. If you go to page 7, our Machzor, the new version, which is like all about bringing people together, wrote instead of Pitchu lanu, as opposed to open for us the gate of righteousness. As opposed to open for me the gate of righteousness. And that's why I keep saying Pitchuli. You will hear me, you will have the Machzor the day of Yom Kippur, and you will hear me loud and clear, Pitchuli. I invite you to say Pitchuli also. Don't ask for anybody else's gate. No. The role of your children is to ask for their gates. The role of your children and the role of parents, for those that were in the previous conversation that was a little bit about that, is to push your children so they actually open and go about their lives and open the gates that they need to open. Like, there are things that we cannot fix for them. There are things that we cannot fix for anyone else. And one of the real problems that we have in our lives is that in the meantime, we stand next to a gate that it is ours, and that one we might not be opening, and that's a tragedy. That's a real tragedy. No one else can open it for us. It is heartbreaking to realize also that we cannot open the gates for our own children. We just can't. I had a comment there when I take it, and who was? It was you? I don't know. Okay, so Shiri. I don't know, but I just want to I think it's out of inclusiveness. I think it's a pattern in the Machzor. In some places it works very nicely, and in some places I think it doesn't. But Yeah, I would disagree with that. So that's if that's the rationale, and then I would say, sure, the vidui is supposed to be communal. Exactly for the moment in which you're in front of your gate to feel that you have the courage and that you are not alone. But the gate is yours. The gate is yours. Like, don't try to hide it. Don't try. That is a moment in which you don't say we the people. It's me, Nico Socolovsky. And the things that I go wrong, the things that I really need to heal in my own life. Now, where are you? So the moment of Neila, you can go to page 7, I want to do something else, in which we say, Bithuli Sharei Tzedek. So what's happening is that we start having less light, like it's becoming darker. And in synagogues that have big windows, it's actually very telling. So it's getting darker. And you see how the day is abandoning us. Like you feel to some extent abandoned. You're in that kind of a spiritual high, in that place of connection that you have, or we have, hopefully, throughout Yom Kippur. And there are synagogues in which people start going around and say like, Neila, it's Neila. It's like, what? Okay, yeah, I know. I'm on page 567, says Neila. Like, what are you trying to tell me? What people are trying to tell you, we don't do that. No, we focus on our sidurim, we don't talk to each other, no that way. What they are trying to tell you is, move before the gates are locked. The entire enterprise of Yom Kippur is to invite us to face the transformation that we can live, the transformation that we can experience, and to approach and to get closer to the life that we want to live. Yom Kippur is not in the past. We start Rosh Hashanah looking back. And that's why I started by saying the Day of Judgment. We start Rosh Hashanah by looking back. We are the only people, right, that starts a year by saying, let's reflect on what happened. Like you usually, for the beginning of a year, you make plans for the next year. You don't stay there. Our people starts the year by looking back. Yom Kippur, we're in this interesting transition in which we are really trying to figure out how to go forward. And the beauty of this is that it is universal. Like each one of us has a gate. Each one of us has important gates that we haven't unlocked in our lives. They are not in plural. They are totally singular. They are for each one of us to figure that out. And what I want to invite you to do is to think about what is your gate. You might have more than one. What is the one that you actually need to open and you are too intimidated to approach the gatekeeper? The gatekeeper is not necessarily a person, right? The gatekeeper might be the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are. The gatekeeper might be how we decided to storage our memory. The gatekeeper might be our pain or our fear. I don't know what your gatekeeper looks like. But I'm sure that we make monsters of our gatekeepers. Huge, intimidating monsters. But at the end of the day, they are standing at the gate that belongs to us. And if the version of yourself that you knew yesterday didn't have the courage to stand up and to make it through the gate, so try today. Try it today. Try it later today. Once again. Try tomorrow morning. I think that 95% of the job is to realize where the gate is, and then just to try to walk forward. I want to finish thinking a little bit. I say it was going to be pop. And I think that Bob Dylan actually knew what he was thinking about when he said knocking on heaven's doors, right? So you know the words "Bithuli Sharei Tzedek." You see them there? Well, let's do it a bit higher. It's too high. Sorry. We're gonna do it higher. Bithuli Sharei Tzedek. Abobam Gamoyam. Repeat it again. Bithuli Sharei Tzedek. Abobam Gamodeya, hey, 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 knock, knock, knocking. Those words you know, right? Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's doors. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's doors. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's doors. Hey, 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 hey. Knock, knocking on. I'm gonna give you a solo, David. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's doors. Hey, hey. Let's say Bithuli Sharei Tzedek. Bithuli Sharei Tzedek. Abobam Gamodeya. Bithuli Sharei Tzedek. Abobam Gamodeya. Hey, hey, hey. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on heaven's doors. We're gonna finish it open. So you make sure that you burst through those doors. Shavua Tov.
Amen.
I think it says bonus track. For you, just think about it.